Welcome to the Point of No Return podcast, a show at the intersection of technology and strategy. On this show, we interview industry leaders and experts to better understand how they think about strategy during this time of exponential progress.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Point of No Return podcast. I'm your host, Nectar. On today's show, I spoke with Pierre-Alexandre Fournier, CEO at Hexoskin. Hexoskin is a company I really admire. On top of being an investor, I'm a huge fan of their product. Pierre-Alexandre himself, a bit on his background, really a remarkable individual. He's an entrepreneur, designer. He co-founded Hexoskin 11 years ago, I should say. And it's become the leading smart clothing company for sports, fitness, health, and sleep tracking. He's had the chance to work with, professional trainers, doctors, health professionals, sports scientists, space scientists, and many other amazing people to develop wearable health sensors and smart clothing. And it's really changing the way we look at health and take care of our health. Pierre-Alexandre is one of the smartest entrepreneurs I know. He's built a business that has a truly world-changing mission, which is improving people's health. And we had a great conversation. Honestly, I learned a lot about how he came up with Hexoskin, the mission of the company, and how early they were in the IoT space, the progress they've made since launching their first product, and the opportunities in front of them, how he makes decisions and the impacts on the company strategy, the key trends that he's keeping his eye on, and what's next for the company and the industry. Like I said, even though I know the company, I still learned a lot from the conversation I had. It's inspiring to see a company focus on such massive problems. I really hope that you enjoy the show. Thanks. Pierre-Alexandre, thanks for being on the show.
Oh, thanks for having me.
So full disclosure, I'm a bit of a fan of your company, as you know, and user of your product. But maybe as a first question, can you explain what Hexoskin is?
So Hexoskin is a connected health company. We make body-worn sensors, smart clothing, to record personal health data in real life. And then we offer mobile apps and analytics software so you can do something useful with the data, share it with the people who can help you live a better life, either for training, health prevention, health management. And so our company does we work with people involved in elite sports. We do clinical research. We've been doing that for more than 5 years now. And we have a segment that works with defense agencies and space agencies and military and space medicine projects.
How do you give the elevator pitch? Because it sounds like it's such a powerful product. How do you explain to someone that has no idea what you guys do, like in a simple manner? I'm just curious if you ever had that challenge. Like a smart shirt that basically helps you understand your health is one way to maybe express it.
I think what is key with the devices we sell is that we measure health in real life continuously over the long term. That's our strength. We're really strong in monitoring people continuously over the long term, and there's very few people that can do this in a real life context.
So you've been at it now for 11 years, right?
Yes, 11 years.
How did you come up with the idea? It seems like 11 years ago, like it seems like the internet hadn't been invented, right? If you think that far ago, but obviously it's not the case. But 2006, right? Facebook was just launching. I think YouTube was just launching. How did you come up with the idea?
Yeah, so it was a long process, to be honest. So it took us 4 years to get to the idea of making biometric shirts and smart clothing. At first, in 2006, what we wanted to do is to do machine learning, apply machine learning for healthcare. So build software so you can do predictive analytics, see things before they become a problem, change your habits, change, let's say the way you interact with clinicians. So you're never sick and you're never admitted to an hospital and you can just manage your health. With these machine learning tools. But we found out really fast in 2006 that was a year before the iPhone, that there was no data that we could work with. Because first of all, the medical and health data that people had was on paper, and you cannot do machine learning if the data is on paper. And it was not the data we were looking for anyways, because we wanted to do long-term predictive analytics, and you're never hopefully in the hospital for the long term. So nobody collects your data over the long term. And we saw that medicine and science was kind of blind on what's happening with people in real life. So because we had no data and we couldn't do machine learning then, we said, well, we're going to build devices that are easy to use in real life settings. Ideally, they're invisible and they need no maintenance. And they're just part of your life. They generate data. And when you want to use your data, when you want to share it or analyze it, it's available. So that's the concept. That's the idea. So 11 years later, we have smart clothing, we have other sensors, we've built a software stack, and it's all connected now. So we have thousands of people connected to our infrastructure. So that means they're uploading data from the shirts to the servers where we crunch the data and we provide them with insights about their health.
On an average day, what percentage of the day is an average user wearing the shirt? Is it like an hour, or like 2 hours?
The average user uses it a few times a week for a few hours at a time.
Okay.
We have a lot of different types of users. For example, we have a community of users that focus on monitoring their sleep, and they just use it for sleep monitoring. We have another community that use it for a training, and sometimes they're going to monitor their sleep too and recovery, but sometimes it's just training. And then we have other people who are involved in clinical research, so then they can define different protocols. Sometimes they make the people in their studies wear it 24/7. Sometimes it's going to be once a week. They need to do certain tasks and record them with the shirts.
What's been the most surprising use case? The one that, let's say, back in 2006, when you had this dream, this vision of building a predictive engine, essentially, to help people's with their health. Now it's becoming a reality and at scale. What's been the most surprising thing in your estimation?
I think it's the adoption of our platform to monitor people with mental health issues. So we've done a lot of research and development in cardiac disease, respiratory diseases, exercise science, sports and fitness and recovery. But then we found out that some people were using it to monitor people with dementia, people with addiction, people with personality disorders, because they can find markers of emotion and stress and the mental issues they're tracking with the vital signs that we measure with the biometric shirts.
Wow, that's really interesting. Actually, I didn't even know that. It's very, it's an interesting use case. So like your total effective market, right? Like I'm sure is almost limitless, right? Like how do you think about target market and how you can sell your product?
Well, it's a very good question because we have users in a lot of different markets, that are pulling us in their directions, but we cannot go after all these markets. So we need to make choices, and we need to make choices for the short term, the medium term, and the long term. We have a vision for the next 20 years for the platform we're building, but we need to get results in the short term and medium term because we need to keep the company growing and we need to pay the bills. So we're still focusing on what we've started. So people in elite sports who have a need for performance and really deep insights and precise data. People who are doing clinical research and scientific discoveries, and then people with chronic diseases, so heart failure, chronic pulmonary diseases. So these are the markets we're looking at right now that we're working with, and they each have a really big potential.
Yeah. How do you think about competitive advantage for your company? Like, I think we were speaking right before we started recording, you spoke about data. How can you prohibit other people from starting what you've started, and building a barrier to entry that I think is defensible?
Well, I think what we do is really complex. So the barrier to entry is really high for anybody. So if you want to make sensors, you need to design hardware and then manufacture it, and so put together the different people who are going to be part of the supply chain to make the end product. And it's very complex. For smart clothing, it's very complex to build a supply chain, and we've done it, and it was not easy. Other people have tried it and they failed. So just that it's really hard. And then if you want to go after medical applications, you have a lot of regulations in place that you need to comply with to offer products. So we're still not offering a medical grade product because of that, because there's a lot of red tape, there's a lot of investment that needs to be made in doing all the paperwork. But then for all the markets I've talked about, it can be a sports trainer in the NBA. It can be someone, doing fitness assessments for the U.S. Army. It could be someone in the pharmaceutical clinical trials. They all want to see that the data that your product is producing is reliable, is accurate. You need to show them proof. You need to show them scientific literature. And that's a very high barrier to entry to anybody who wants to come in and compete with us. Because the research cycle to collect data, physiological data on humans, do the analysis, and publish work, it's between 3 and 6 years.
Wow.
Takes a lot of time. So
yeah.
We're in a business where the product development cycle is long. The clinical research you need to do to enter a new market, it's a long cycle also. And then the sales cycle is very long. And then there's this regulatory hurdle. There's the hardware connectivity, all the data science we make. All these things are hard.
Yeah. It seems like it's a very complex market landscape that you're dealing with a lot of different opportunities, right? And you spoke about, the different time horizons. How do you think about strategy for Hexoskin, and what is the kind of the decision matrix that you use to come up with, okay, well, this is, for this year, this is going to be the focus, right? Mm-hmm. How does that happen?
It's a good question. I think a lot of it happens late at night when there's no email and no phone calls and no meetings, and discussing with colleagues and then my business partner, Jean-François. One thing that is very important in our strategy is to put one foot in front of the other, because a lot of people will talk, for example, that they're going to apply AI to this industry and it's going to change everything, but it's not going to happen in 6 months. You need to do it step by step. How do you collect data? How do you organize it? What is the first thing you can sell? What are people ready for? Because everything you're going to try to sell is going to affect the way people work. It means change management. So you need to have an idea of how will people change the way they work with these new tools that we're going to provide them. So you need to have a roadmap for what you develop that take into account the users in the other side to make sure the step is not too high, the price is not too high, and they're going to gradually progress in their adoption of the technology. Mm.
And what are your current priorities? Like, what are you guys working on right now that's top of your list? That you could obviously speak of.
Yeah, that I can speak of. I think what's nice right now is that we have a diverse customer base. So it's really good for the business because we don't depend on just one industry or one customer. I think what we're focusing on right now is to make sure that the architecture we have for our connected device, so it's an Internet of Things product. If you think about it, you have the device, it collects data, it brings it somewhere, and then you can share it. It's digital, so you can do a lot of things with it. So we want to make sure that this architecture is the right one, so that the platform can be used to develop new applications easily. especially for healthcare applications where there's a lot of value to be created. There's a lot of unmet needs. In some segments, you have as much as 80 or 90% of the population who should receive a health service that is not being served because there's not enough resources, and you need to make things more efficient. And that's what we're looking at right now. So, for example, how do we help clinicians, so doctors, nurses, and the rest of the staff, help people stay at home but still access healthcare services from home? That's one of our priorities right now.
That's interesting, right? Because if the shirt is connected, people can, I guess, you can predict when someone might have a heart attack or have some kind of ailment, which will then, notify the local authorities, right? So that seems like that type of a use case is not that far off, right? In terms of being in the realm of the possible, right?
It is. And actually there's a company in the Netherlands that we work with that has developed a tool, an AI tool that can predict if people with lung disease will be in a state of crisis and will be admitted in an hospital 2 days in advance. So this is an AI tool that has been built, that has been tested in 3 clinical trials, that has been patented, and it's on its way to the market right now. And it's going to change everything about how we deal with these patients, because right now there's nothing to tell if one person is at risk every week. So, and these patients, when they're admitted, they stay 12 days in the hospital. It costs so much money. And yet they have this simple tool that is going to be very affordable and that would make such a difference in the life of these patients. Yeah. So we're really excited about that.
Do you see your business model changing? Like, I almost feel like people should be paying you for the shirt, and then you capitalize on services after, right? Is that far-fetched? Is that something that's actually being considered? Or?
Well, we've been evolving our business model. When we've launched the shirts, so it's accessible to everybody. So the consumer, the prosumer, the professional. In 2013, our business model was to sell devices, and the software was free. The platform is open data. We have an API. Everything was free, and we were just selling devices. And one of the reasons for that is that at the time, we didn't have a lot of features that we felt that we could charge for a subscription or any other type of contract. But gradually, we've developed other features and other services. And now we're in a state where our business model has shifted to the device maker, to the just hardware manufacturer and seller, to one that's more like the rest of the IoT models, where there's a hardware component to your business, there's a software component, and then there's a service component. What we're selling really is personal health data infrastructure. So you have organizations who want to collect personal health data from a bunch of people, and they work with us to put in place this infrastructure. And it involves devices, it involves software, very often custom software, because they have existing platforms that they want to connect to, they want to automate some tasks, and then services, because they need help to do planning, requirements, staff training, tech support. We do a lot of the data analytics works for them, because we have tools that have been developed to deal with the amount of data that we generate. So it's a more interesting business model for us, and it's something that we've developed because we've listened to the customers, and we've realized that they were overwhelmed with what the products could do, and they didn't have the expertise within their organization to deal with the technology. So they needed this knowledge transfer to be made.
Do you see the day where you guys are more of a platform than an actual IoT company? Like, it sounds like you can have a platform where anyone can plug into, and you offer that intelligence.
It's definitely a platform.
Yeah.
It is a platform, and like I was talking earlier about scientific research with Hexoskin. We have an open data platform. That means when people collect data with Hexoskin, they have access to all the data points. And because of that, people do research with it, and because it's completely transparent, they can use the data to publish in scientific papers. And most of the papers were published with Hexoskin. Well, we were not aware of the projects before we read the article.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
So it's kind of we've built this open platform, and we kind of crowdsourced the scientific research and all the application development on the platform to these hundreds of researchers who are demonstrating new applications in new markets for the product. And they're publishing and they're talking about it.
What's the use case you're most proud of? Or maybe not use case, but what are you most proud of in your day-to-day walking into the office?
Well, I think I can speak for the whole team is that we feel that what we do is important. We need to change the way healthcare is delivered. We need to do more healthcare, less sick care. So we need to work more on keeping people healthy and less on fixing people who are sick. And technology is going to play a huge role in this. And so we wake up in the morning and we feel like we're going to make an impact on society. We're going to be one of the enablers that will completely change the way health is seen, health is perceived. People are going to get more educated about their own health. They're going to have better relationships with clinicians. Everything's going to be more connected, more transparent. Mm-hmm. It's something that is so positive,
Yeah, no, absolutely. And conversely, is there anything that keeps you up at night? In terms of like not achieving that, that vision?
Well,
besides your two young kids, but that's
it's health, it's human health. So, well, my kids, that too. Well, they sleep well at night. It's just that they wake up early, but that's something else. But, every time you deal with human health, it's such a complex equation. There's so many variables. Everything is so slow. Everything happens so slowly. And the way people work, with health, in sports and in medicine, they're so, it takes a lot of time to change their mind, and there's a good reason for that. But from a technology point of view, you want to go fast, and it's never happening fast enough. So innovation is never happening fast enough. Change is never happening fast enough. And so what keeps me up at night is, how can I speed up that process? Because the vision we have, we need it now. We need it now because our healthcare systems just cannot provide for the population. They cannot deliver the promise they've made to the population on giving them services and keep them healthy.
Yeah.
So it needs to happen now, but it's going to take years and more years.
Yeah, I'm not going to rant about the healthcare system in Canada, but I totally agree with you. It needs to move faster, right? Mm-hmm. My dad was recently hospitalized, nothing serious, but two different locations. Like, hey, what's his list of prescription pills? It's like, he was here a month ago. Why don't you guys have this like somewhere in some kind of database that I don't need to try and remember or pull out? So I think there's a lot, like that's just one component, but as you mentioned, there's so many components just from a prediction aspect. And also an incentive aspect. Like I think it's in China where doctors are actually penalized, if their patient gets sick. They're rewarded, when the patient is actually healthy, right?
Yeah.
A reversal of the incentives.
And in the US, it's moving in that direction. With the Affordable Care Act, there's an emphasis on value-based healthcare. So you don't just pay doctors to do surgery. You pay them according to the patient outcome. If the patient comes back after 15 days, in a fee-based system, the doctor is getting paid more, So you do a bad surgery, the patient comes back, just make more money. It's a returning customer. That's not what you want in healthcare. That's not what the patient is looking for. So in the US, they're moving towards a value-based healthcare. Hopefully it keeps on moving in that direction. We'll see. In Canada, well, it depends on the province and it depends on it's like everywhere. It depends on the hospital. It depends on the staff.
Yeah.
The human component is very important. It's not just about technology.
Yeah. What do you think is happening in the space right now that no one is talking about?
It's a good question because I read a lot of things, so I feel like things people talk
or maybe
about
don't get
things.
enough attention is maybe a better question.
I think there's a lot of work being done on genetics, and what they call the microbiome. So all the bacteria that lives inside your body, your gut especially, but in the rest of your body that affects you so much. It's amazing. It's like a new field of medicine that we just discovered a few years ago. We discovered that the bacteria you have in your gut affects your emotions, the way you think, your general health. It affects the health of the diverse organs in different ways. And we were just starting to understand that. I think it's amazing.
Wow, that's interesting. Yeah, I'm not super knowledgeable. I'm zero knowledgeable actually about it, but I heard that there's more cells in your gut than in your brain. I don't know if that's true or not, but it was one stat that I heard, and I think it points to your fact of like what we eat has a huge incidence on our health.
Well,
we don't really know yet.
Definitely more DNA because it's a whole ecosystem that you have in your gut. It's not just your own cells. It's a bunch of different species interacting together. It's very complex. We still don't understand. And, another thing is, I'm not sure people understand how much medicine is still limited. There's so many things that doctors don't understand. For example, I think we still don't understand what cancer is. It's not clear what a cancer is. And different cancers happen for different reasons. And we talk so much about cancer, and we've invested so much. I think people think that we know, but it's still, there's so many mysteries. And again, it's because there was not, so medical information is something that is very recent. Data is very recent. So they've been collecting very few data before the Second World War. What they call evidence-based medicine dates from the 40s. And it was very expensive to collect data. But this is changing right now. Because since, a few years back, maybe 5-10 years ago, now sensors are becoming cheaper. And it's cheap to connect them and collect data and collect this data over the long term. So, and I think the data we're collecting from, with the Hexoskin technology and other tools that are available now, we're the first generation who access these tools. It's like if we were the first generation to be able to take pictures of ourselves. We're going to build that health history that nobody else had before. And it's going to change the way we see human health, because in 50 years from now, you'll have people who will have 50 years of data, and you'll have millions of them. And so we'll be able to look into it and understand a lot more.
Yeah, it's super exciting.
More things.
And what other trends and maybe technologies are you looking at for Hexoskin, like over the next few years, like 3 to 5 year horizon that will have an impact on your business? Well,
there's two things we try to get rid of, but I think it's not just us; it's the industry. And it's about maintenance. When you talk about the Internet of Things, the problem today is that these things need a lot of maintenance. They're like babies. If you don't care for them, they're not growing. They die. Because you need to charge a battery, you need to configure the Wi-Fi, you need to configure, need to do Bluetooth pairing, and then you upgrade your device, and the ecosystem changes all the time. So there's a lot of friction because of that. But what we see is that we're going to move in the next 5-10 years towards the Internet of Things that don't need maintenance. They're just going to be things. They'll have a battery, maybe, but you'll never have to charge the battery. You never have to change the battery. They'll be connected. always or when they need to, but you're not going to need to configure them really, because they'll just know what to do. They're just going to be connected. So these smart devices will be really smart when they just work by themselves, and right now it's not the case. For example, with the devices that people have at home, even the very simple one, the companies in the industry have said is that the major point of friction is how to put the Wi-Fi password in the device or how to do the Bluetooth pairing. And you lose a lot of users just in this first step. You can lose 20, 30, 40% of your users just because there's friction in these first steps. And then when the battery is empty, well, it's a user that cannot use the product. And then it's a user that can drop out. So if you fix these two problems, it's going to change everything.
That's super interesting.
And it should happen within 10 years from now.
Pierre-Alexandre, I don't want to keep more of your time. It's been very, very interesting. I learned a lot, to be honest. I would say maybe one last question is, where can people find out more about Hexoskin, about what you guys are doing?
Well, you can go on hexoskin.com. Our products are available for sale on our website. There's a lot of information on our website about the platform for developers. We're on social media too, on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook. So we're really easy to find, really.
Yeah, cool. Thank you so much for your time.
Okay, thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you for listening to the Point of No Return podcast. Never miss an episode by clicking on the subscribe button on iTunes or Google Play.